Hello human geographers and welcome to our next video, this one about geopolitics. Geopolitics is the study and the relationship that countries have with each other, how states interact with each other. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. Now the first part we're going to look at is organic theory. Organic theory was devised by a guy named Friedrich Ratzel. He was a German social scientist. And what he was doing was combining social science and biology together, and he stated a country is like a living organism. It's alive. The first thing is it's born. Then a country, just like an organism, needs to grow. So a country needs to expand its land. It needs to go out and add territory. If it doesn't, it will die. So kind of think of U.S. expansion with Manifest Destiny as the United States expanded westward to take over land. Or Nazi expansion in Europe, as the Nazis went out and expanded. In fact, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis used Friedrich Ratzel's writings to explain why they needed to go out and expand. And also, like an organism, countries need to eat. They need resources. So that's what Friedrich Ratzel was trying to show, was that you have a country and compare it to an organism. It's born, it grows and needs to expand, it needs to eat and consume resources, and like what happens to some organisms, some countries do die. Our next thing we're going to look at is something called the Heartland Theory. The Heartland Theory was created by British geographer Sir Halford Mackinder. And basically what he said is if you own this piece of land being shown in the map in Eastern Europe, you're going to conquer the world. His argument was, own Eastern Europe, then you conquer the world island, which is Eurasia. If you conquer the world island, then you can conquer Africa. If you conquer Africa, then you will have global domination and be able to conquer the world. Why? Well, he felt that this is where most of the world's resources were. That if you own these resources, you could be extremely powerful. Because of the railroad, being able to move troops and resources. Because you were protected from the sea, from naval invasion. Because much of the world's population was in this area, he believed this was the strategy to be able to dominate and conquer the planet. Now this did lead to a lot of wars because there were a lot of leaders who believed that this could possibly be true. And we'll later see that there were arguments against this. Another theory was the Rimland Theory, and this one kind of moved beyond the Heartland Theory. Nicholas Spickman was an American who determined that maritime policy was actually the key to global domination. He believed that along the coastlines of Eurasia were the dense populations and that had a more varied resource ability than the interior area. His writings were examined so much that they actually influenced much of the Cold War policies, such as NATO and communist containment to keep them from trying to grab that Rimland area. And a quote that came from that was, "Who rules the Rimland rules Eurasia. Who rules Eurasia rules the world." So much of the Rimland theory really became more and more popular in the modern era and was recognized as being more to the truth of global domination. At the beginning of the video, we talked about what geopolitics was. It's a relationship that states have to have with each other. Well, part of that is territoriality. That's the willingness to defend space that a person or a country claims. The thought was over the past few hundred years that if you made clear defined borders, that would solve a lot of issues countries have. But it really did not. First of all, countries may disagree where the border actually is, or they don't accept where a border was placed. We could also have problems like we see right now in the South China Sea, where oil is being sought after by places like China that are trying to expand their economic zones or their territoriality in the ocean. We also can see that there could be a spread of one's beliefs like ISIS is with Sharia law. So when we look at territoriality, putting up defined borders does not always solve a problem. Somebody may want to go out and expand those borders and control more territory. The final part of geopolitics we're going to look at is something called Irredentism. Irredentism is when an ethnicity wants to unite its culture and they seek land outside of its borders. The best example we could use is Germany. After World War I, large pieces of land were stripped from Germany. So starting in the 1930s, Germany went out and started grabbing those pieces of land back. Pieces of land that were in Poland and Czechoslovakia and later France. They went out to try to bring those German-speaking people back into the boundaries that Germany had. Obviously, that's going to impact the relationship Germany had with other states around them. So in conclusion, geopolitics are how states have to have relationships with each other. Sometimes they can be very peaceful, like Canada and the United States has had pretty much throughout our histories, but sometimes it can lead to other problems and other conflicts, like when Germany was trying to spread themselves out, or as China looks for oil in the South China Sea. Geopolitics is about the relationships that countries have with each other.